Welcome, everyone. I'm Stephen Thorne. I spent my career translating complex technology into plain English. Today, I help people and small businesses use AI well. As you can see on screen, today's session covers what AI is, what it isn't, and how to start using it. And honestly, that third part is the most important. There's a lot of noise around AI right now. Some people talk about it like it's magic. Others talk about it like it's a threat. Some folks are excited. Some are skeptical. Most people are a little bit of both. My goal today is to cut through all of that. By the end of this session, I want you to walk away understanding three things clearly. First, what AI actually is in plain English. Second, what kinds of work it's genuinely useful for. And just as importantly, what it's not reliable for. And third, how to use it well in a way that actually saves you time, improves the quality of your work, and helps you think more clearly. If you haven't already, go ahead and open ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or whatever AI chat tool you prefer. You're going to need it for the exercises. This course is built for non-technical people. You don't need a computer science background. You don't need to know how code works. You don't need to know any machine learning jargon. I'm going to explain everything clearly, practically, and without unnecessary buzzwords. So let's start with a really simple question. What can this technology actually do for you right now? Open your favorite AI tool and paste the prompt you see at the bottom of the screen. Watch what happens. Now pause for a second and think about what just happened. You didn't write that output yourself. You typed one short prompt and got back something useful for a task that might normally take a good chunk of thinking, rewriting, and polishing. That's the opportunity. But here's the catch. The quality of what you get from AI depends heavily on what you put in. If your prompt is vague, the result's usually vague. If your instruction is specific, the output gets a lot better. That's a huge part of what we're covering today. Let me walk you through the three examples on screen. First, the proposal factory. You record a 60-second voice note about a client, and AI turns it into a polished 3-page proposal. What might take 4 hours can drop to 20 minutes. Second, discovery call prep. You feed AI the prospect's LinkedIn profile, their website, and their latest posts. It gives you a tailored question sheet and a pain point summary. Instead of going in half prepared, you walk into that call with a real structure. Third, the content repurposing engine. You take one blog post and turn it into 5 LinkedIn posts, 3 email subject lines, a Twitter thread, and a slide deck outline. Same source material, many useful outputs. These aren't imaginary use cases. This is what people are doing right now. And notice something important. None of these examples requires you to be technical. These are language tasks, thinking tasks, communication tasks. That's where AI is strongest. So the right starting question isn't, can AI do everything? It can't. The right question is, where can AI remove friction from the parts of my work that are already mostly words, structure, and explanation? That's where the gains usually show up first. Here's our agenda for today. We've got 6 modules, and I want to walk through each one briefly so you know where we're headed. First, what is AI really? We'll cut through the hype and look at how it actually works, what it's good at, and what it isn't. Second, the 4D framework. This is the mental model that ties the whole course together. And then we'll dig into the 4Ds themselves. Delegation, knowing what to hand off to AI and what to keep for yourself. Description, which is really about prompting. How to ask for what you want so you get useful output the first time, not the third. Discernment, how to evaluate what comes back, because AI can sound incredibly confident even when it's dead wrong. And finally, diligence, how to use AI responsibly. Privacy, accuracy, attribution, ethics. Throughout this session, I'll keep bringing us back to one practical goal, helping you use AI as a high-leverage assistant without turning your brain off. That's the sweet spot. Let's start with the most important foundation, what AI actually is. Before we get into how to use AI, we need to spend a few minutes on what it actually is. A lot of the frustration with AI comes from a mismatch between what people expect and what's actually going on. People expect magic. Then they get something that sounds smart. Sometimes is smart, sometimes is wrong, and usually needs some guidance. So here's the core question I want you to hold in your mind. Is AI actually intelligent, or is it just a really good guesser? The honest answer? It's much closer to a really powerful guesser than most people realize. And once you understand that, a lot of AI's behavior starts to make sense. Its strengths make sense. Its failures make sense. Its weird confidence makes sense. Its usefulness makes sense. Let's break it down simply. Here's what actually happens when you type something into ChatGPT, or Claude, or another AI language model. You give it some text. It predicts what words should come next. Then the next. Then the next. That's it. That's the core mechanism. Now, when I say that, some people hear it and think, that sounds kind of underwhelming, but it's actually remarkable. Because when a system's been trained on enormous amounts of text, books, websites, articles, documents, discussions, instructions, examples, pattern prediction becomes surprisingly powerful. Here's a good analogy. Think about autocomplete on your phone. If you type looking forward to, your phone can often guess the next word. AI is doing something broadly similar, but at a much, much bigger scale. Instead of just guessing the next word based on your texting history, it's learned patterns from an enormous amount of human language. So when people say AI wrote a proposal, or AI summarized a report, or AI explained a concept, what's really happening underneath is pattern completion. It's seen enough examples of proposals, summaries, and explanations that it can generate something that looks like one. That explains why it can be incredibly useful, and it also explains why it can be confidently wrong. When it makes up a statistic, that's pattern completion. When it invents a quote, that's pattern completion. When it tells you something false with total confidence, that's pattern completion leading somewhere incorrect. So here's one of the most important lines in this entire workshop. Confidence does not equal accuracy. Now let me give you the fastest AI history lesson you'll ever hear, because context helps. For decades, AI existed mostly in research labs. Then in 2017, something called transformers arrived. You don't need the technical details. The simple version is that this new design dramatically improved AI's ability to understand context in language. In 2020, GPT-3 showed that AI could produce longer, more coherent writing. In 2022, ChatGPT launched and hit 100 million users in about 2 months. That's when AI moved from being mostly a research topic to something everyday people could actually use. By 2024 and 2025, AI was built into tools people already used: Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, Slack, and many others. And now, in 2026, we're seeing more agent-like behavior, longer reasoning chains, and systems that can handle more complex multi-step tasks. The key takeaway here? AI didn't come out of nowhere. This has been building for years, and it's not a fad. Let's get really specific about what AI is genuinely good at, and where it starts to wobble. On the left side of the slide, you'll see what AI does well. First, writing and editing text at almost any scale. A paragraph, an email, a draft proposal, a summary, a rewrite. Language is AI's home turf. Second, summarizing and reorganizing information. Give it a messy set of notes, a long transcript, or a document with too much detail, and it can usually pull out the structure and key points pretty quickly. Third, brainstorming. Ask for options, alternatives, angles, examples, or ways to phrase something, and it'll generate possibilities much faster than most of us can from a blank page. Fourth, following structured instructions. The more clearly you define the job, the better the output tends to be. Now let's look at the right side. This is where people get in trouble. AI can't guarantee up-to-date accuracy. Its training data has limits. Even when a tool has internet access, that doesn't magically make everything perfectly current or perfectly right. AI can't guarantee factual accuracy either. This is what people mean when they talk about hallucinations. It can generate something that sounds plausible and polished, but is simply false. AI also doesn't understand your context unless you give it that context. It doesn't know your client is touchy. It doesn't know your boss hates long emails. It doesn't know your industry has compliance issues unless you tell it. And finally, it can't replace human judgment. That part's still yours. Now here's the mindset shift that matters most. AI is a conversation partner, not a search box. Most of us grew up learning how to search. You type a few keywords into Google, scan results, click links, and piece together an answer. AI works differently. AI works much better when you brief it the way you'd brief a smart colleague. Not email project update. More like, help me write a short project update email to a client. We're slightly delayed on one work stream. Everything else is on track, and I want the tone to be confident and transparent without sounding defensive. That shift from keyword search to contextual briefing changes everything. Let's get hands-on. Open your favorite AI tool. First, if you want, try the basic prompt. Just ask it, "What are you?" Then try this better version. Explain what you are in one paragraph, as if you're talking to a curious 10-year-old. Then list 3 things you genuinely can't do well. Pause and notice 2 things. First, the audience instruction. By saying a curious 10-year-old, you're telling the AI how simple to make the explanation. Second, the limitations question. You're not just asking what it is, you're asking what it can't do well. That matters, because part of getting good with AI is learning to understand its boundaries, not just its capabilities. After you run it, compare the 2 outputs. The short prompt usually gives you something pretty generic. The more specific prompt usually gives you something more useful, more readable, and more tailored. That difference, that's the entire game. Better prompts, better outputs. Every time. Take a moment and ask yourself, which response felt clearer? Which one felt more human? Which one made the limitations easier to understand? Now that we've grounded ourselves in what AI is, the next question is, how do you use it intentionally instead of randomly? That's where the 4D framework comes in.